My name's Lindsay Stevens. I am the interim director for the Escambia County Purchasing Department. We have a very good team of people who are available to help you guys. We also have resources. Unfortunately, our gentleman from Apex Coordinator was unable to make it tonight. So while we're waiting for Commissioner May, I'm going to kind of go over a couple of things that they can help you with Apex. If you are, by any chance, brand new to trying to do business with the county, and you're looking at our county solicitation documents and you're saying, what's an RFP? What do you want from me? You can call the Apex Coordinator. They will actually walk you through how to write your bid, how to follow our scope. So whenever we have a scope and we say we need X, Y, and Z, they'll help you. Unfortunately, my office can't help you whenever you write your proposals, because that's kind of a conflict of interest. If we're helping you write it and then we're assisting in scoring it and everything else, it makes it a little less competitive. But you do have Apex available. There's Chip Wells. I believe his cards are on the table. Feel free to give Chip a call. He can help you not only with Escambia County, he can help you with Santa Rosa County. I have a vendor that I deal with a lot. I helped him, in quotes, whenever he started working for the county. He's like, I'm just a small construction guy. I can't get these levels of insurance. I can't get these levels of bonding. And I said, well, start small. Look for the smaller jobs that require less, and then build yourself up, make a name with your companies. And so whenever you get a name with your companies, they'll be more apt whenever the bigger jobs come and you're more comfortable to do the bigger jobs. But, you know, he's now helping this gentleman get in with Okaloosa County and I believe Walton County. So the Apex Accelerator, they do a lot for you, and it's completely free service. They have a network. They can help you. I know I spoke to this gentleman over here, and he's in healthcare. If he knows that we're looking for something that is a huge conglomerate, but he knows that healthcare is a piece, they can put you guys together. They can say, well, you might want to reach out and talk to this company so you guys can do a joint venture. Something we will get into whenever Abigail comes up and goes over our vendor guide and how to register in OpenGov is there's resources out there for you guys who you might not be ready to be a contractor for the county, but you know that there's pieces that you can do. So we're building a building. We're going to need sidewalks. We're going to need a masonry. We're going to need a roofing company. But we want a GC to handle it all. We have something in OpenGov where you can go in and it's the list. Everybody who has downloaded it and everybody who's looked at it. And you can tell who is a prime and who is a sub. So if you want to be a sub, you go in and you get on the followers list. You designate yourself as a sub. And then you start reaching out to everybody as a prime, saying, I see you're interested in this. Do you have somebody that can do this? Do you have somebody that you need? Can we work together? That gets your foot in the door with the county, because then you can use us on your reference sheet whenever you say, I worked this project with this company doing this as a sub. The better you do, the better it will be. While we're getting started and kind of waiting, questions and answers are at the end, but is there anything that anybody would like to learn about tonight in this?
I'd like to find out if you have set-asides. Do you have set-asides particularly for ethnic groups or with disabilities?
Unfortunately, the question was, do you have set-asides for ethnic groups and minorities? Unfortunately, at this time, we do not. We haven't completed all of the disparity studies and everything else that we have to have. We do have a local preference, and we do have a small business minority enterprise, but it does not allow us for set-asides right now. We did actually just have our custodial bid, and we did write it in such a way that 2 of the zones were geared for smaller companies. But at this time, that's the only set-asides. We do track, so whenever you register in OpenGov, if you qualify for any of, minority business, women-owned business, veteran-owned business, make sure you put that on your registration, because we do track it. We want to know, because we want our local community to come in and work for us. You know, the big companies from Tampa and everything else, we have to pay a lot for them to mobilize and come up here and do the work for us. If we can find our own local companies who can handle the work and sustain it, we would love that. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I'd like to know about micro-purchase opportunities.
We have those listed in OpenGov. In OpenGov, we've got all of our small requests for quotes and our solicitations. So if you see something in OpenGov and it does not start with the letters PD, then that is something that we are estimating to be $50,000 or below. But now that I've kind of talked your guys' ear off, I am going to turn it over to our District 3 Commissioner, Lumen May, so he can come up and welcome everybody and let you know how important you are to us.
Thank you for coming out. We really appreciate you being here. And certainly I want to thank our purchasing staff. They know how important it is for me, for small businesses, because I'm a small business owner, a small construction company before I was elected. I did a lot of small contracts for the county. And so join me, giving up our purchasing department for coming and doing this on a Monday. We appreciate it. So I'll be very brief. You don't want to hear anything from a politician. Hopefully our staff's going to give you the information. But for me, I understand the bedrock and the foundation of America is small businesses. And so I wanted to make sure that small businesses, minority businesses, women-owned businesses really understand how to do business with their government. And so that's one of the reasons that I direct our staff to have these type of meetings. I want you to know my staff is here somewhere. Call my office. We want to make it as seamless as possible. And we want to know what are the issues, what are the challenges, whether it's bonding, capitalization, whether payment is too slow, whether 30 days net is something that your business can't do, or whether there's a threshold of what we should be bonding, or whether it's communications. Once the procurement office does it, I mean, are you able to communicate with engineering, public works, our facilities? Are they doing the things that you need them to do? And how can we improve? We're simply here to figure out, to help the large guys, they have it. They have estimators, they have administrative offices, they have a lot of money that they can do it. But for our small businesses that are hiring 3, 4, 5, 6 people that are making a difference in our community, we want to make sure that we build that up. And so that's very important with all of the contracts, whether it's sidewalks, gazebos, whether it's grass, whether it's cleaning, whether it's painting, whether it's IT, whether it's buying pens and paper or Xerox paper or servicing copy machines. We want to make sure that we are totally inclusive. And so today, thank you. My office is always open. I'm here at Brownsville. My office is here. I always believe in taking government to the people. You don't need to have to come and have to figure out how to pay to park and be downtown. We want to bring our services to you because you are taxpayers, are your citizens, and you are going to make a difference in our community. So again, thank you for caring enough about your company, caring enough about your employees, caring enough about your county to be here tonight to say that, I want to be a part of the solution. No one gets rich working for the government. But you know what? Everyone that goes to work every day should get a fair wage, and we should be able to pay our employees. And just because you're a small business doesn't mean that you should have your people working for free. We should be able to have a competitive bid. I certainly believe that in our small businesses that you shouldn't be competing against a company that's doing $25 million, that's doing $50 million. And so one of the things I'll tell you that I'm doing quite simply is working with our procurement and our administration and pulling out small contracts that are under 250, under 500, eliminating the bond requirements, eliminating some of the things that would keep you out, and making sure that you could build that capacity and build that resume to be great. So again, thank you for coming out to Brownsville. We have a great staff, a great procurement staff. They're dedicated. They know the mission. They understand the goal, and the goal is that everybody gets to eat. I often say, build the lake, we build the ocean, we put the fish out there and we let people fish, and you decide, how much fish you want to catch. And so hopefully you catch as much fish as you want to catch. And so again, thank y'all so much for being here. God bless y'all.
Okay, so Abby is going to go over a lot of this information whenever she goes over the vendor guidebook. I just wanted to take a minute to go over the importance of our bid documents. Whenever I was asked about the micro purchases, we do have two different thresholds. Our formal competitive bid is $50,000 and above. So if you're looking at our OpenGov system and you see something that starts with PD and then 2324.3 numbers, that is, we're estimating it to be over 50,000. Now, if you look at it and you're like, yeah, it's kind of close, that's because once we hit a certain range, we encourage our departments to put it out for formal solicitation because we know that things have changed. We know that prices have changed. Insurance prices have changed. We don't put anything in there whenever it's a bid for you guys to break out your insurance and your bonding. So whenever you're doing your pricing for the county, we don't want to put anybody out of business. We know that it's expensive to do business with us. We need you to make sure that you make enough to pay your people and to pay all of your overhead costs. Because if you don't factor for that, then you're going to lose money, and then you're going to come back and you're going to end up losing your bonding because you're going to have to withdraw from the contract once it started. So we want to set you guys up for success. If you guys have questions, whenever the solicitation is ongoing, we have a question and answer section in OpenGov. Our departments and my staff, they answer everything in a timely manner. We do have a cutoff, and that gives you time to have the answers to the questions before you submit your bid. Like I said, I'm Lindsay Stevens. I'm the interim purchasing director. My office has myself. David Miller is the interim purchasing manager. I have Abby Raymond, who is also, this is Abby's first wedding anniversary, and she chose to spend it with you guys. So let's give Abby and her husband Terrence a round of applause for being here. But she is one of my purchasing coordinators, hopefully soon to be one of my senior purchasing coordinators. I have Angela Jones. She's another purchasing coordinator. I have Haley Majeski, who is unfortunately leaving us in a month to relocate, but she is a purchasing coordinator. Buzz Rogenbuck is a purchasing coordinator, and Kent Jensen is our specialist. So we have a fully trained staff who can help you guys. If you have questions and you don't understand exactly what we want, pick up the phone and give us a call. If it's pertaining to a solicitation, we'll answer it, but we will also ask you and implore you to please put the question in OpenGov, because if Abigail tells you something over the phone and she's wrong, you're under that impression, nobody else is. You did it wrong, everybody else did it right. It's not binding until we have it in writing. So that is one thing that I do want to stress to people who are new to doing business with the county. The question and answer section is there for a reason, and you have to have your answers in writing. Another thing that I want to stress to everybody who's new, we have pre-solicitations on almost every single one of our formal bids. We encourage you to attend. You can ask questions. The department is there and they're telling you what they're looking for. Some things might not be 100% clear, so our department will tell you in that, and then we will issue an addendum afterwards to say, here's something to clarify what was in the bid. Make sure you go. If you are confused in any way, shape, or form, show up at the pre-solicitation. Ask us questions. We are very, very strict on our timelines. Whenever we say a bid is closing at 2 p.m. on March 26th, at 2:01, our system will not let you put your bid in. Give yourself plenty of time. We have several questions in our bid submissions that you have to answer. We have forms that are required. State of Florida requires drug-free workplace. If there's any type of federal funding, we require SAM.gov registration. That is another thing that I will foot stomp right now. If you try to get SAM.gov registration the day before, you will not get it. It takes them about a month. That's the first. Second, if you go to a website and they try to charge you for SAM.gov, you are in the wrong place. SAM.gov is a federal website. It says at the top of the page, this is a free website. This is the official federal government site. Make sure that that's where you go. Yes, it is a long, tedious process. If you have questions, we're not experts on SAM.gov, but we can try to help. I've actually sat down with a gentleman when I worked in Santa Rosa County. I sat down with him for 3 hours because he didn't know how to work a computer and helped him step by step to do his SAM.gov. We do make the time. We need you guys. As I said before, the big companies that come in from out of state or out of town, they're going to charge us a huge mobilization fee. They're going to charge us to house their people. Why pay somebody whenever we have the resources right here in Pensacola? We have them in Escambia County, Santa Rosa County, Okaloosa County. We have them right here. So we want you guys to come and work for us. I'm done wasting your time tonight because I know that this is your precious after work time. I am going to turn it over to Abby. She's going to go over the vendor guide. If you guys did not pick one up, we have copies in the back. We also have a QR code, I believe, that you can scan and download it. So I have Abigail Raymond.
Hello, good evening. Can everybody hear me okay? Okay, perfect. Again, thank you guys for your time, for being here. We're going to go over a couple different items. The vendor guidebook is something that we recently launched. It's on our website, but it's also something that's kind of evolving as we have these events and see that there's a need for certain items to be covered. We'll go ahead and skip into where to start. So is everybody here registered in OpenGov? Raise your hand if you're not. It's okay if you're not. We have a QR code back there. Please scan it. It'll take you directly to where you need to register. The importance of registering is that's how we put our bids out. So not only our formal solicitations, but that's actually invitations to quote as well. So I think Lindsay had mentioned earlier that there is a couple of smaller opportunities. Maybe you're just starting out with your business. Invitations to quote are a great place to start. The departments actually put those into OpenGov, and that information is pushed out to our database of vendors based on your commodity code. So those are a couple items that we'll cover. Is everybody familiar with commodity codes? Yeah, it's very similar. So different agencies utilize different codes. We use NIGP's commodity codes. So we'll actually cover that in our next slide here. It's very important that you update your commodity codes because those are how we're going to get that information out to you. So if, for example, if you're a printing services business, make sure you're choosing all of those items that affiliate with that commodity code list. Anything that you may think that your business is able to do under that specific line item, because you'll receive that information for those bids based on that. If you don't choose commodity codes, you're going to get flooded with emails every time we post something or a department posts something. So it's really important to make sure that you update your commodity codes. One of the other items is to make sure that you're subscribing to notifications. So when you register, there's a process for you to subscribe, and it's in our vendor guidebook. You can actually click to subscribe to our notifications, and then that will help you see when we post new things as well. So that's just kind of our general rule of thumb. And then as well, when you're logging into the vendor portal, it's important to verify under the vendor analytics that has that information that you're looking for each of those solicitations regarding if you see a prime or a sub or somebody following that solicitation. That's going to be important once you get registered. And that's mostly comes into play when you're looking at a specific project too. Another item is to attend the pre-solicitation meetings. Lindsay kind of already mentioned that. I actually was just speaking with her about that earlier today. I feel like as a buyer, that's an area where vendors don't necessarily always take the opportunity, and I sometimes think that maybe it's that our information is clear enough, but I also know that sometimes that's not the case. And you can see that sometimes when you're reviewing the solicitations or the questions and answers as they start to come in, that's usually a pretty good sign to us that maybe something was missing in the scope of work that we needed to be more clear about. So I would strongly encourage you to attend those pre-solicitation meetings because that will give you an opportunity to A, understand the requirements, and B, it directly understand what format we're asking for specifically when it comes to a request for proposal. That's also something that you'll see in the vendor guidebook. We put samples of different forms that we're looking for, whether it be an invitation to bid, which is the bid forms, or a request for proposals where we're actually looking for a specific format. I've done a number of requests for proposals over the last couple of years, but more so recently, and one of the items that we're actually seeing a lot more lately is that that's an important component that's skipped over. And one thing I will say when it comes to requests for proposals is a selection committee is reviewing your proposal. So if we have 14 vendors that have responded to a solicitation and the information that they're asking for isn't easy for them to find, it's going to be reflected in your score. So best practice is to make sure that you're reviewing that scope of work and that it's including all of the information they're asking for in the format that they're asking for it. And that's why we have that in the solicitation that way. And again, that's also in your vendor guidebook. Does everybody have a copy of it? Okay, perfect. The other thing is, of course, to use the portal, ask questions, make sure that you're utilizing that because, for one, it's in writing, like Lindsay said. Hopefully none of us are giving you wrong information, but mistakes do happen. So if that does happen, you're putting it into writing. And two, we actually most of the time are working very closely because of the blackout period and the notices between the departments and purchasing being the main contact for those solicitations. We are kind of that facilitator between you and the department. So if it's, for example, an engineering project, I'm probably not going to know everything about that engineering project when it comes to the scope of work because they're the subject matter expert. But if you put that question into writing, I can then reach out to the department and get the answers to make sure that you have everything that you need to submit that proposal or invitation to bid as you need to. This is probably one of the most important pieces that actually was recently added to our vendor guide, and probably most relevant to a lot of you here is our purchasing thresholds. The reason why this is important is, of course, because it depends on who you're working with. So I mentioned invitations to quote. Our departments actually use OpenGov to put invitations to quote in, but they're also still able to do informal written quotes. So sometimes they'll reach out and ask for informal written quotes. Everything needs to be in writing, but also they'll put it into OpenGov as well. So our purchasing thresholds are listed here. As you can see in the beginning, $4,999 or less, that would be considered an informal quote. $49,999.99. The departments need to obtain at least 3 quotes. And then in that instance, we are asking for them to submit it either via OpenGov or in writing. And then a formal solicitation, that's when you're going to work with us. So anything over the $50,000, it's going to come through purchasing. That would be an invitation to bid, request for proposals, request for qualifications, anything like that's going to come through purchasing. And those are the instances where it's really important to pay attention to all of your signed forms, and if it's a request for proposal, the formatting. Here down in the bottom of that page on purchasing thresholds, you can see it says vendors must contact purchasing for all questions related to an active formal solicitation, not the department. The reason I'm going to stress that, and specifically because sometimes we do have incumbents that bid on projects, is those are things that can get you disqualified. So if you are in doubt, just contact purchasing. It's just the best practice. When it comes to a formal solicitation, just contact purchasing and we'll help you get in the right place. Commodity codes, we use NIGP, as I mentioned earlier. In the solicitation, it does, or in the vendor guide, it does cover exactly how you update that information. There's a little bit of information regarding where you put that information in. If you want to scan the code, you can. That'll take you to the 26 pages. My recommendation would be Control F, type in the name of whatever you do, whether it be printing or marketing or copiers, et cetera, and just write down 4 or 5 or however many you want to list that match that commodity code. Lindsay kind of covered some of the common mistakes that we see, but I wanted to highlight some of them here for you as well. We do have form guidance in that vendor guidebook, and I would strongly recommend that before you submit a proposal, if this is your first time, whether it be an invitation to bid or a proposal, take a look at this vendor guide and that checklist and see what's being asked of you. Because the most important portion to you as a vendor when you're submitting your proposal is going to be the vendor submission checklist and then anything that's listed in the scope of work. So the vendor submission checklist is on form guidance. It's right after the vendor registration in the guidebook. And that section will ask you those required forms, any required purchasing forms. It's going to ask you for some information. If it's a federally funded project, we'll ask for the sam.gov. We'll ask for you to sign a form potentially. It really just depends on what the project is and the need. If it's construction-based, there might be a little bit more information in there as well. And then, of course, one of the other items I want to touch base on is the insurance. We do typically mention that in our pre-solicitations. But when it comes to insurance, I think sometimes people assume that because we're asking you for that insurance level, even though it's in our documents, it's not always clear. We don't need you to have that insurance level when you submit your proposal. We just need to know that you can obtain it. So a lot of times people will include their COI with their levels. That's fine, that shows us what you have, but you can also just get a letter of insurability from your provider, which will let us know that you're able to obtain the levels we're asking for. We don't want you to spend extra work and time adding us to your insurance at those levels or having to get quotes for that if we don't need it until we get to that point. Any questions on that so far? Okay, cool. Couple other items. Missing signatures on invitations to bid. We have to have a signed bid form. It's very important. It will automatically disqualify you. There are a couple things in our vendor submission checklist that we can ask for after the fact, which is typically something like maybe you didn't include your W-9 or something was missing on that. We can reach out at that point for those type of items because that just helps us with our purchasing process, but that is a required form. Modifying the bid form. I'm going to talk about that one kind of briefly because that's something that we've seen a lot more recently. Please don't do it. We understand that there are sometimes things missing, but that's why it's important to attend those pre-solicitations and to use that question and answer period. You as the vendor are the subject matter expert for what we're looking for. So if you're seeing something that's missing in that guide, in your solicitation package when you receive it, put a question in writing and let us know, hey, pricing on page 3 or tab or line item 10 seems inconsistent with XYZ. Whatever the case is, if you put that into writing to us, maybe we made a mistake, maybe we weren't clear enough. In any case, don't modify the bid form. Send a question during that time period. Attend the pre-solicitation pointed out. Either way, just let us know before we get to that point, because that will disqualify you. Federal projects. Obviously, we covered the sam.gov. Lindsay mentioned, don't get scammed by a company asking you to sign up with them for a cost. Unfortunately, it does happen. One of our great resources is Florida Apex Accelerator. I was actually just speaking with Chip when he stopped by to let us know he wouldn't be able to stay because his wife's car was having some issues, but he did say they are working a lot with vendors lately, putting together packages, whether it be for your business brochure-wise. He also mentioned they take a look at scope of works and they help them formulate that information. But those are all areas. sam.gov is one of the areas that they cover as well. They help people, they're familiarized with that process, and if you're not familiar, they'll help walk you through it. And they won't charge you for it. We kind of already covered the questions. That's one of the things. Please utilize that question and answer portal. Again, we are not the subject matter expert on flooring. Our departments may have some experience in that, but purchasing does not. So if there's something missing in that solicitation, we need to know. If it's something that's not clear, we need to know. So that's what the best outlet would be to do that, would be in the question and answer portal. And then, of course, the RFP format, that's actually something that we added recently in the form guidance in your vendor guide. You have your signed bid form example. You have your info sheet, which includes information, which we didn't mention up here, but I will touch base on that because it's important in the sense that, let's say that you do get awarded a contract with us. The information sheet needs to be current because that's going to be what we're utilizing when we get to a contract. So purchasing is going to receive from the department, whether it be an invitation to bid or a request for proposal, we receive a checklist from them saying, hey, we want to move forward with this vendor. At that point, we're going to start verifying the information, and most of the time, the buyer will have already verified the information in Sunbiz. But if you put somebody on there that's not the vice president or the president and they're trying to sign the agreement, we're going to ask you for updated information or for a letter of authority from your corporate resolution, because we do have to have that. That's something legal stressed to us, very, very important. We have to have the right signers listed. And that's on the info sheet. That's in form guidance in the vendor guide. The other form guidance that we have is sam.gov. We kind of touched base on that already. You can kind of see a screenshot of what that looks like, and if you're already familiar, then you're aware. We have RFP submissions. That was our recent addition to this vendor guide. One of the things that I will mention is that the submission format, you may see it change slightly, but it should be relatively same in the regard of having tabs. They may call them something different. The department usually has a preference, whether it be tab or another item, but most often what you'll see and what we've been doing in purchasing is having the department put the items that are most important to them when they're scoring. And then at the very last section of that is going to be the purchasing forms. You will see when you go into OpenGov, you can download each of these forms individually, but at the bottom, and we even put a little asterisk next to it in the vendor submission checklist, you can upload those in one document, and we do strongly recommend doing that because it makes it much easier for the selection committee when we're reviewing the documents, and also for purchasing to review everything so that we can make sure that you guys have everything that you need in those packages. If they're not in that order, you may receive a phone call from one of us with lots of questions. So that just kind of helps everybody stay on the same page. We do cover a couple items. I didn't have it listed in our PowerPoint here, but Lindsay already mentioned it, the local preference. It's typically included on any solicitation which it would apply to that's only for an invitation to bid. Because requests for proposals, if you're not familiar, an invitation to bid is based on lowest price. Whoever gets the lowest price in that scenario and has the most responsive or responsible response is going to be who is awarded. A request for proposal typically has criteria outlined, the selection committee is involved, and then so it wouldn't apply in that instance because they're not awarding that contract based on the lowest price. It's a number of factors typically involved. The award process is also outlined. That's kind of where we get to the big question most of the time that vendors come to us with is, okay, great. So the selection committee or the department says, hey, we want to move forward. When do I get that purchase order? Everybody wants to get paid. We understand. We want to help you get that purchase order process, but we still have a couple of steps before we get to that point. So what we've included here in our vendor guide is kind of a breakdown of what needs to happen. A lot of times the department will reach out to you directly, the department purchasing. The department should not be reaching out to you. But purchasing will reach out with what's called an intent to award. No purchase that we facilitate is going to be final and awarded until the board has approved it with formal solicitations. So we may say, hey, we want to move forward with this. Our intent is to move forward, but until it's awarded by the board, we cannot issue you a PO. A couple other items on that would be the signature for the documents. Again, the information sheet comes into play at that point. We will send to you typically, let's say with an invitation to bid, for example, we've sent you the contract. We say, hey, go ahead and send it back to us. This is on the April 4th board meeting. Again, the intent is to get it on the 4/4 meeting, but sometimes things happen. Maybe we don't have everything that we need purchasing-wise, or the agreement hasn't been signed yet. We are asking for the vendor-signed agreement before the board award. And then usually within a week or so after, sometimes a little bit longer if there's a holiday in there, we get that fully executed agreement back from the clerk's office. That's when we'll reach out to you and say, hey, we need X, Y, and Z additional items. Typically that can include a performance and payment bond that would be recorded at the clerk's office or an updated COI. Sometimes the purchasing rep will reach out beforehand and say, hey, I know that you put your COI in your submission. We need it updated to reference Escambia County Office of Purchasing, et cetera. That does help us, but again, you don't need to do that because it's not until the board award that we need that information. In our award process section of the vendor guide, we also mention that performance and payment bond. It does come up kind of a lot lately, it seems, questions regarding when that's needed. Most of the time with purchasing, at least a lot of the projects that I've worked on lately, sometimes the vendor cannot get that recorded or cannot move forward with what they need to do anyway until they have the fully executed agreement. So again, please you wouldn't need to do that in advance. It would be after the board award. We'll reach out to you and say, hey, congrats, this has been awarded by the board. We need a couple more items before we get you that PO. Any questions on that process so far? Okay. Quotes are a little bit easier. So on the award process page, it's rather short, as you can see. The department will issue a requisition request to purchasing. Where Escambia County is a little bit unique, I think, at least from other agencies I've worked with, is that our departments actually send out their own POs. So purchasing will send to them the purchase order, and then they will send it out to the vendor. So you will not typically receive a PO from purchasing. Again, with formal solicitations too, that would be for a quote, but for formal solicitations, that extra step would be once purchasing has received everything that we need, the COI, the performance payment bond, if there is one, the department will issue to you at that time the fully executed PO as well as a notice to proceed. I will stress this, extremely, extremely important. Until you've received that notice to proceed, I would not recommend buying anything affiliated with that project until you receive that, because anything can happen in a short period of time, and we just want to make sure until you have that fully executed agreement and you have all of your purchasing documents and the notice to proceed, then you can proceed. So that kind of covers our vendor guide. I'll click through to our next step, which you guys have already heard, is ask questions, reach out to us. We're here to help. Obviously, you guys are interested in learning how to do business with the county because you're here on your evening. I'm sure most of you worked today or had businesses to attend to. In any case, you're here with us on an evening, so we appreciate that. But we are here to help you guys. Our goal is to do this more frequently, and sometimes things change. So I would encourage you, if this is your first time coming out, or if you're a current vendor with us even, keep coming, keep networking, because these are also a great opportunity to network with other vendors. I know it was kind of quiet when we were waiting to get started, but Lindsay had a great point. Sometimes at these events you meet people, and maybe you're just starting out with your business and you haven't gotten to the point where you can do some of the large projects, but somebody here does have that ability, and you can network and partner with them, or maybe you learn something different about the agencies. A lot of us agencies for purchasing are very similar in the way that we do things because of statute, but sometimes there's those unique nuances based on ordinance, et cetera. So if you're here and you're willing to learn, that's obviously a great start to this process. So this is my shameless plug. We're on Facebook now. One of my favorite portions of this job is actually socializing with vendors and networking. One of the things that we're trying to do, other than doing this quarterly and trying to be more proactive with trying to get in front of vendors and small business, is also make sure we're spotlighting those important projects. So if you're following us on Facebook, we do a This Week in Purchasing. During that time, I typically highlight some of the projects that we're working on, also the invitations to quote from the departments, because even though those aren't something that we directly manage, sometimes they get slept on, so we try to put them in there as well. We also spotlight vendor tips. So sometimes you may see things like the signed bid form reminders, or if something's changing, that would be typically where we spotlight that. So I try to stay pretty consistent with that, but that's our This Week in Purchasing. And then I'm going to turn it over to Brian with the Gulf Coast Minority Chamber. As I mentioned, Chip is not here, but please make sure you grab one of his cards before you leave, because they're also a great resource. But Brian is a huge supporter of pretty much everything that we do and anybody else does in this county. So we appreciate him, and we're glad that he's here. So.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. Let me get a quick photo of everybody. You guys look so good. I got to get a photo of you guys together here in the crowd. So smile, everybody. Maybe on Facebook, maybe it's on websites. There we go. Supposed to be somewhere else, just to let you know, you may be on camera, okay? Well, I just want to introduce myself. I'm Brian Wire, the President and CEO of the Gulf Coast Minority Chamber of Commerce. I passed out some directories earlier, and one of the things I would like to tell you about is that when I first came to the Chamber in 2017, we were called the Gulf Coast African American Chamber of Commerce. Within a year, I kind of kept getting asked questions. Brian, I like what you're doing some great things, but I'm sorry, I can't join because I'm not black. I said, well, we're not only for black people. I know it says in our name, African American. So I said, you're right, it makes a lot of sense. So in 2018, we rebranded to call the Gulf Coast Minority Chamber of Commerce to be more inclusive towards all businesses. We're the only chamber that received funding from both the county and the city. They help to provide funding for the chamber so that we can help bring more businesses to the county and city to get things done and get them getting bids in organizations. Now, I will not lie for you, 2018, between now and then, COVID, pandemic, it's been some tough struggles that everyone has had over the time period. And we just want to make sure that we're in this for a marathon, we're not for a sprint. We're taking things in a way that it takes time, like all businesses, to grow gradually and to grow and get better. The purchasing department, I'm so proud of them now. They've gone through Lindsay doing an amazing job, but in my short tenure here of 5 years, they've gone through tremendous changes, sometimes down to 1 to 2, 3 people really working in the office, being able to cover a task load that the auditor said we should have like 12 people doing the work. So we're in a great position now, so I've been working along beside them. Now, in my book, it shows here about what the Chamber's about, and really are here to serve as an advocate and a conscience of a minority and small business community while striving to assure economic fairness for all. And that doesn't mean that we're here only for minority businesses. When you classify minority businesses, it could be a whole variety of businesses. Women are included in some minority businesses, veterans and others. It varies across the whole entire spectrum. One of the things that we do is help to get businesses to work with the state, the county, and the city. So the county is an example of us working with them today. We also do work with the city of Pensacola, and we also do work with the state. We actually have an event called the Office Supplier Diversity Event in September, and you'll see the information once the date is finalized, where we bring state agencies in, the Department of Corrections, Environmental Services, facilities. All of those state agencies come here to Pensacola. We meet at the Sanders Community Center, probably about 40 of them total. And you as Pensacola businesses get a chance to meet with them directly, talk to the people who are in charge one by one, and just have a relationship and trade business cards off and meet with them. It's a great chance to get a chance to work with state agencies. We have folks come in from Miami, from New York, because it's their one chance to see all these state agencies in one location, as well as our city and county agencies. That's kind of what we do as a chamber. One of the other things that we do is we provide metrics and statistics of how things are going in our area. And I'll share a few things with you about our state right now, our county right now. So for example, right now, from the Census Bureau, we have about 7,400 total employee establishments in Escambia County. We have about 111,000 people in Escambia County that are employed. We have total payroll well above the number they have here is kind of, I need to verify this exact number here. But we also have a total non-employee establishment. So if you look at businesses, there's businesses that have employees and do not have employees. So according to the Census Bureau, we have about 7,400 businesses that employ people, but we have 25,800 businesses in here, most of those, with the reduction of those 7,000, that are not having employees. Those are small businesses, one-person owners with no employees. So we have a big number in place where they want to grow. They want to get employees and they want to get bigger. And the city and the county and our chamber want to make sure we are part of that. Now, when you look at the ones that are part of the non-minority chamber businesses in the area, we have about 3,800 non-minority businesses in the county area that actually employ people. In minority business-wise, we have about 536 businesses that are minority-owned employers. We also have men-owned businesses at about 2,900, and women-owned businesses being about 971 that actually employ individuals within their companies. So we look at the numbers, the metrics, and the stats, and we try to make sure we find ways to get things done. One of the biggest ways you can do things is to network, meet people. Being a chamber of commerce, we have a lot of different events, and I'll be happy to get your information from Lindsley, put it in our list. We have free events where you can come out and meet with the businesses and talk to them. I personally have seen when we had events before where people were talking and they had relationships built, they combined together to get some bids won. They met people that can do services for them to get their businesses to grow even better. I love telling the story at one of our county events where we had a business that was there talking with the purchasing department, and they talked to them and they talked about their business, which really wasn't a connection. They said, hey, on the side, I do auctioneer work. And the purchasing face lit up because they were looking for a person to do auctioneer work for over 2 years and they couldn't find anybody locally to do that. So just that side conversation about what you do on the side allowed that person to get a bid and work with the county, satisfy their need, and also give that person some business as a side job that they were doing. So Those kind of relationships happen all the time. So I just encourage you to meet each other, talk, get a chance to network. As our chamber, most of our events we have are free. They're open to the public. You can come and get some information from business leaders in the area, share some knowledge with them. You can network and build some relationships that are very vital towards our community. Other than that, I just wanted to just introduce myself to you. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them for you. One of the things that I also do is help provide some direct connections. So if people come to me, they have questions about how they can get a hold of Lindsley, how they can get a hold of the city, I have direct contacts with them. The Small Business Development Center the same way. If you haven't gone on to the Small Business Development Center and registered there and set up a consultation, you truly would gain a lot of value from it. It's a free service. See a couple of heads shaking back here. But it's a free service that the Small Business Development Center provides for you. You meet with them, you tell them your needs, you tell them where they're at. They can help you write business plans. They can help you talk about what your business can do marketing-wise. They can do like a survey of what other businesses are in the area and figure out where you should sit and where you should lie within your business plan. It's a great service. It's provided for free. And one of the services hosted out of Pensacola here that they kind of in charge of a lot of the parts for the other parts of the state. So I please encourage you, if you have some struggles or if you want to grow even more or you want to see where you're at, go to the Small Business Development Center, get a meeting with them, talk to them, and it can make sure they can find a way to help you out. It's a really great service that I wanted to just talk about today. But if you have any questions, feel free to let me know. I'll be happy to answer them for you. I have some directories here. This is the 2022 version. 23 versions I had kind of went through very fast. I'm going to create a better version for 2024 here in the next couple of months. Is there any questions I can answer for you at all? Anything that you're curious about? And if you look through our list, as I mentioned earlier, we're called the Gulf Coast Minority Chamber of Commerce, but we're not just for minority businesses. You look at our corporate partners, we're very much supported by Florida Power and Light, by Innisfree, by the Wahoos, because they want to make sure to find a way to help make sure that they connect with everybody. They don't want to connect with just a small segment of the big businesses. They want to connect with the smaller segments and the minority businesses, and they partner with us to make sure they can find ways to talk and talk to our entire community and serve our entire community the best that they can. So if you have any questions, please let me know. I'll be standing around here later. I'll be happy to answer any questions for you. And thank you for being here. We appreciate it. Please get some food and drinks. We don't want to carry anything home, so if you don't eat it soon, you take it home with you. I'm going to be at the door giving you a sandwich on the way out and some chips. So please don't be shy. Eat some food and drinks, network, get a chance to meet each other. And if I can help you out, please let me know. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Brian. So we've kind of thrown a lot of information at you guys tonight. Are your heads spinning? You have questions? Anything that we didn't answer that you need to know about? Crickets? All right, awesome. Like Brian said, take time after this is over. Introduce yourselves to each other. Grab food, grab drinks, water, chips, cookies, whatever you would like. Introduce yourselves. You can come over and talk to myself or Abby or Tina. We're here for you guys. We need you guys. So with that being said, thank you guys all for coming out tonight. And if you guys have questions that you're not comfortable with asking in front of the groups, we'll be right over there. Thank you.